Welcome to Life, Death, and the Law, presented by the law firm of Deason, Garner, and Hansen, hosted by attorneys Sean Garner and Adam Hansen.
So, Chris, thanks for coming on the show today.
You bet.
Let's get started with one of my favorite topics that we discuss during our monthly interviews, and that is what you hate.
I hate a lot of things, Sean.
So do I.
I'm a man full of hate.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so what's bothered me is I'll go into a place and I don't like being called boss. You hear this? Martine's nodding.
Uh-huh.
You hear this? What can I get for you, boss? Okay, boss. Like if you go to order something at a restaurant. What can I get for you, boss? And the term boss, I don't know, it almost feels like a backhanded, like I'm calling you boss, but you're not my boss. So I'm calling you boss almost to, I don't know, I'm overthinking it, and I know that, but I don't appreciate.
You think it's degrading a little bit? It's like sarcastic?
It's a little bit, yeah, it's a little backhanded.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, what can I get for you, boss? Listen, sir, you, whatever.
Yeah.
Boss, I'm kind of like, am I really your boss? No, I'm not. So, I don't know. I think we've lost a lot of kind of formal language. Sir is a rarity.
There's certain families out there when I'm going to football games with my kids, flag football games, and other families have kids that call their dad sir. Yes, sir. Like when he tells them to do something.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, make sure you do that. Yes, sir. And I'm like, dang, how do I get my kids to do that?
I don't know. I knew kids like that growing up that called their dad sir, and we were always afraid of sir.
Yeah.
My dad never made us do that, but my dad was always big on you say yes. You don't say yeah. So even today, with the grandkids, they'll say yeah, and he'll say yes, and they'll say yes. Those kinds of things. We've gotten very informal, and it's great to a point. And I think it all started for me when I saw civilization begin to decline. Was when
it's gonna be good right here. I know it.
When retail stores stopped requiring uniforms, and you could wear whatever you wanted. And I don't know if you remember that.
Well, I do remember younger, yes. Like it was a badge of honor when you got hired somewhere and you got your uniform.
Yeah, you got 2 or 3 shirts. And I remember specifically when my wife Edna worked at Miller's Outpost. Remember when Miller's Outpost was on the big curve? So that's actually where we met for the first time. But they had Miller's Outpost t-shirts that you'd wear. And so you could easily spot who worked there and who didn't. And then while she was working there is when kind of the rules changed where, we're going to let you wear kind of whatever you want. And then you'll just wear like a lanyard or a badge or whatever. And I think when that happened, it was like a drop on the rung of like slack of when you go to a place, kind of what sets the workers apart from you is that they're in a uniform.
Yeah.
And you go to restaurants and you go to your high-end restaurants and all the waiters and waitresses and they're wearing kind of a uniform. And then you'll go to your other things and everybody's kind of a mishmash of whatever they wanted to wear. And so the term, when we throw around boss and stuff instead of sir, I think there's kind of, it's just another symbol of how informal we've become. Do we hold anything in regard? Now, I'm just ordering a burrito. So I don't need you to, yes, sir. Of course, sir. More guacamole, sir. I don't need that. That's not what I'm saying. But whenever I hear the term, what can I get you, boss? It just, I don't know. I'm always kind of like, yeah, a new waiter.
Okay. So I remember the thing that really gets me, and it's such a simple thing, but it could cure most of the ails that plague us today in society. And that is if they would just put a screen at every restaurant that shows when your order is ready, like your number is ready. For example, you go to Five Guys and you order whatever it is and they call out 47, 47, or they want your name, right? Because they want to be more personal.
Right.
And they're calling it out, but it's always like, if I've gone to the bathroom, heaven forbid, like
we're all sitting there eating while someone screams.
Yes,
47.
the rest of the patrons are going to be getting yelled at. Where's 47? And I'm like, oh, right here. It took me a little longer.
Yeah.
So it's like if you
or you forget your name, Sean. Sean.
Well,
wait. Oh, that's me.
And my name, they can never get Sean. It's always John.
Really?
Which is, I'm okay with the John, but
Maybe
there's
you've
other
got an
Johns out
enunciation
there.
issue.
I may.
That's on you.
I may. It might be me, but I'll hold the SH for quite a while. Sean. Okay, John, got it. All right. We're going with John again, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's, I've got a good friend, John Kempton, and I'm going to, give away his secret right now. He's going to be upset at me, but he always gives his name as Leroy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Like when he orders something? Okay.
Because there's not as many Leroys out there as there are Johns.
Distinct. Yeah.
And it kind of gives a ring. Leroy. Okay, I got it. I hear Leroy.
I remember it. Yeah.
So, but if they just put a monitor, I mean, I'll donate the screen to Five Guys, and then they could put up the number 47, and I can look up at that screen and see that my order's ready.
Well,
and
they have those, now being served. You go to the DMV, now
the
being for
that is showing the depravity of these restaurants. The DMV is outperforming them on this matter.
Wow. Yeah, if you're second tier to the DMV,
it's like
you're doing something wrong.
Right. And we know we're in a free fall.
Yeah, that's when you pack up and move to a different country.
But wouldn't that be easy?
I think it would be pretty easy, but what we don't like, most things I hate, the more I learn about why they are the way they are, you learn that imagine the cost of a system like that. It has to tie into, now what you're describing is probably pretty easy to achieve through Toast or one of these point of sale software. I
am no tech genius, but I guarantee I could put up a screen where somebody could type in the number 47.
I'll bet it's a conscious decision in order to create a more intimate connection between the business and the customer.
Yeah, well, yelling out my name over a crowd of crowd of people talking and having a conversation.
Well, I've heard
doesn't accomplish that objective.
I just recently listened. So Chick-fil-A will refill your drinks at your table. You notice that? They have an employee whose sole purpose is to walk around and fill up your drink. Can I get you another lemonade?
Chick-fil-A does take it to the next level.
Now listen, so they lose money on that person. It proves that they lose money on that person, but what it does is people will choose Chick-fil-A over McDonald's. They outperform McDonald's, even with a smaller menu and maybe a little bit higher prices, because people choose them and it brings them in the door. Say, I don't have to get up and get a refill. They've got this person that comes and does it. So Chick-fil-A loses money on it, but they choose to do on that employee because that employee is not producing anything, but it brings people in the door. And so there's that connection, like an actual person coming to your table. Can I get you more lemonade? My pleasure. All of those things we appreciate. So I'll bet at Five Guys, when they yell out Sean, now it's this personal thing. Oh, Sean's burger's ready, not 47's burger. You're not just a number, Sean.
I can't remember. At Five Guys, do they say the name or the? I
think Five Guys is a number.
I think it's pretty much a number. Yeah. Okay.
Your example was terrible to begin with.
Well, I wouldn't care if it's a number or a name. The fact that I'm getting shouted at to get my food.
But I'll bet if you read it, it's to create kind of a personal connection.
Yeah.
When they yell out Chris, I'm like, oh, okay, me, Chris.
Give them a high five as you grab your
That's
burrito.
A good team. Yeah.
Huh? Okay. Well, they should change it. Switching to a more serious subject, I want to talk about a lot of symbols throughout history, and specifically we're in the Easter season. We want to talk about the symbolism of Easter. There's a lot of symbolism of a lot of things around, our nation and religious symbols throughout the world that have been lost, and people have no idea. Why do we use, the pyramid with the all-seeing eye on the dollar and things like that? And I think that we could really get a rich education to get back into that and understand it. But talking more about symbolism.
What did I miss?
You miss the things that Chris hates and the things that I hate.
You only have a few?
He hates one, I hate one.
I figured you'd have a lot more to hate than that.
No, there's actual rage, but we don't have to get into it for this session.
You see the KFC sign?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the wind didn't like the chicken bucket.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome, huh?
Yeah.
I love that.
That's crazy. I always wondered how those things, and but the weak point's obviously the steel pole, so it just rusted out to the point.
I wondered, it
broke off.
When did that happen?
Yesterday. It blew over right into 4th Avenue.
Right after a car, if you watch the surveillance video,
Really?
there's a car going, and then right after that, boom, hits right where it
just
would've been.
missed. I mean, 4th Avenue's pretty busy. There's a good chance. Like if you were to tell me, hey, if that sign comes down, does it hit a car? Let's place a bet.
Absolutely.
I would bet it hits a car.
Yeah, around
And it didn't.
midday. Absolutely. There's constant traffic.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. I mean,
There's a sweet açaí place right there.
Oh, yeah?
You do açaí?
Sometimes.
What's it? Is it right on the 4th Avenue, or is it back in that little alley
it's
place?
Like it used to be a motel kind of thing.
Yeah.
Turned into a lot of different shops.
Yeah.
Interesting vibe going on.
Yeah.
It's called
Luchador or something.
Lucha Kombucha.
Oh,
Is it Lucha Kombucha?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And they got a bunch of luchador masks.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty
Okay.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have açaí. I don't know. It's a lot of sugar.
It is?
Yeah.
What? Don't tell me that.
It's fruit pudding. Yeah. Yeah. Don't read up on it if you like it.
I do like it, and I think it's totally healthy, so I'm like, dude, I'm doing a double.
Yeah, that's a marketing.
Darn it. It's, you know what? It reminds me of that Seinfeld. The fat-free yogurt.
And it's fat-free. And they all put on weight. And
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fat free.
I mean, it's probably better for you than, maybe a donut, but it's up there.
Really?
You look at
Dang it.
Not
don't read
yours,
up
though.
on it.
Not yours.
Thank you.
Yeah, yours is
Read the label.
fat-free.
I will not read the label.
Yeah, don't
And
read
I
the
put
label.
peanut butter on it.
He gets a 5-gallon drum of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I do. I eat it a lot. Yeah, it's good. And I make them.
There's no sugar in that one.
No shit.
I'm
Yeah, buy
no
an
chef,
buy
but
like
an
an acai berry and give it a taste.
It's straight from the jungle of Brazil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
also.
there's no
it
additives.
needs a lot of sugar.
There's no additives.
Yeah,
Just straight acai berry.
yeah.
Are you saying if you were to partake of a legit acai berry, you'd be disappointed?
You'd probably be a little disappointed.
super
You'd be like,
bitter?
you got any blueberries around? Because this thing, they're a little bitter. Yeah, and trust me. I mean, if anybody's watching the YouTube video, don't look to me for health advice, but that's one that I've always, I enjoy the effort of the marketing. It's kind of like Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt doesn't exist. There's no such thing.
What are you talking about?
Greeks aren't making yogurt. I know, but that's yogurt that's been
Vanilla Greek yogurt.
So they realize that they have all this byproduct and different parts of the yogurt making process. How can we sell this? And they came up and invented Greek yogurt.
It's a hot dog of yogurts?
Yes.
Oh,
Where do you get your information? TikTok?
Podcast mostly. Not TikTok, but podcasts.
Which
Yeah.
one?
I do watch a lot of TikTok, but.
That reminds me of Doritos.
Mm-hmm.
Doritos was a byproduct of leftover tortillas at Disneyland. Disneyland actually
no.
invented Doritos.
Really?
That is a wives' tale. That's not
Mexicans have been eating fried tortillas all the time.
Yeah, so
Chilaquiles, that's, yeah.
Yeah, so it was
true.
a
But
byproduct
Doritos
of
specifically?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Look it up, Martine.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going to fact check that.
Okay. Yeah, we need a fact check on the.
But not the
Doritos.
acai. Not the acai.
Don't look up acai. Don't ruin Sean's idea.
And is he right or wrong?
Yeah, you're not supposed to eat more than 5 grams of sugar
A day?
in a meal.
In a meal.
You try to eat things and drink that don't have more than 5 grams of added sugar.
How much?
No added sugar is great,
How
but
much does that protein shake have, Sean?
Chris said it was clean.
yeah,
Yeah.
Fairlife is a pretty
like
good one.
Fairlife.
And it's sweetened with monk fruit, so monk fruit's all right.
Monk fruit?
Yeah, monk fruit sweetener.
Whoa.
Oh, there you go. Nice. Dropping some D-Land knowledge over here.
2 grams.
Okay. So that's why
great.
it's clean. Yeah. No, I got into clean eating a while back. I don't follow it as religiously anymore, but I just educated myself on what we're eating, and it's kind of a precursor to what RFK is doing.
How do you define clean, though?
Clean is you should be able to read that ingredients, and you should know what everything is.
I should be able to pronounce each ingredient.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fun in that.
Yeah. You want to get rid of anything that's a chemical. Certain kinds of oils are bad.
Nut oils?
Seed oils are not the best. And it not the actual oil of the seed is a problem. The oil from the seed is kind of gummy. So they add additives to make it loose, to make it like oil.
Okay.
So you can pour it and cook with it and stuff. And it's those additives that are bad.
What kind of oil are they adding?
They're adding something that breaks down the gumminess that actually is linked to like brain damage.
Well, yeah.
So
probably cancer.
Oh, right. I did hear a link of that to Alzheimer's, right?
Yeah, stuff like that. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not out doing any jogging or anything, but I try to be a little bit more aware. But I'll still swing into McDonald's from time to time.
You know, speaking of jogging, I had my knee operated on a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
There was a singular incident. I wrecked a dirt bike and tore my meniscus.
Oof.
And I just kind of, I didn't want to do anything with it, and I was getting by. So,
you popping wheelies?
No, it wasn't anything glamorous.
Hot dogging? You were hot dogging in the street.
We went up.
For your wife?
It was a bunch of us old guys having a midlife crisis. We went up for New Year's, and
no hands.
Yeah, no,
watch this. That's what always happens.
yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah,
watch this.
That's when you eat it.
No, we went up and had a tour guide. He supplied all the motorcycle gear. None of us had been on dirt bikes before. Chase went on this, your brother. Jeff went on it, my brother. None of us had any experience on dirt bikes. And so we're like, let's go have a tour guide, give us a little experience on dirt bikes, give us the gear, give us the bikes, everything, take us on some little trails, you know. And we get on this excursion, and this guy shows up, and his name is Bo, and that was our first indicator. This was going to be a little bit more intense.
Your first time on a dirt bike, you want to be guided by somebody named Bo.
Yeah. And the dirt bikes are all brand new. They were 450s, KXY, I don't know.
450s?
Yeah, they were 450s. They were Honda 450s. And and they were all brand new. And Thor, he jumps on the dirt bike and, you know, lets go of the clutch. The thing spins out from underneath of him, and he broke or dislocated his thumb within like 5 minutes. Something injured his thumb for months. And most of us had laid it down before we even started on the trail. And we get on this trail, and there's rocks all over the place. There's cacti lining either side of it. So it's like a freaking gauntlet of death. And Jeff Cook and his son Jared went, and Jared did a flip over the handlebars.
I saw the video of that.
Yeah.
That went viral.
It was nuts.
He posted it, and it went viral.
And this is Bo just riding behind him with one hand holding his cell phone. This was no GoPros involved. And we all ate it hard, but on the last little journey back to the truck, I was the last of the pack, and they were kicking up a bunch of dust. We were riding into the sunset, and I come around the corner, and all I see is just this plume of dust and nothing else. I can't see anything because I'm looking right into the sun. And I'm like, I hope the road keeps going straight because I got nowhere else to go. I'm going like 30 miles an hour in this sandy riverbed, and if I slow down, you know, you're going to catch and wreck anyway. Before I know it, I'm jumping over things in the desert and laid it down and, you know, tore my meniscus. But so all of that to say, I went and got my meniscus repaired. And as I got out, I went up to Utah where they're skiing a bunch and a lot of knees are repaired up there. And they're like, man, other than the meniscus tear, your knees look great. Like your ligaments look good, everything in there, your cartilage looks good. It's like, it looks like you've been taking great care of your knees. I'm like, yeah, I don't run. You know, I specifically don't run.
You don't use them.
I would run. You know, I get up at 5 a.m.
Packaging.
Yeah. It's just that, you know, I care about my knees. So that's why I don't run.
Well, quality of life's important. So that's kind of why I've, you know, started going to the gym and doing all that stuff. You know, your wife's been doing that. She looks great.
Yeah.
And it's about quality of life. I want to be able to do those fun things I enjoy doing when I'm older, you know? And so if you take care of your knees when you're younger, you'll have them.
So when my wife tries to wake me up, it's like, hey, let's go on a walk.
You're thinking long term.
Take care of these babies.
Long term. Yeah.
I think I'm going to pull another few.
Yeah. Brittany's short-sighted. You're thinking long term.
Yeah.
That's a good plan.
Doctor's orders, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Stay in bed.
I'm doing it for the family.
I don't know, though. I mean, when you tell that story, we use the same surgeon. I ripped my
bicep.
And I think they just try to tell you something positive.
Why? What'd they tell you?
He's like, you have bones like marble. Like it was trying to get through your bone. I'm like, thanks, doc.
I feel so good.
Yeah.
Here's my bill.
Maybe it takes my mind off.
He showed me pictures. He showed me pictures of very good looking ligaments. I've never seen any other ligaments, but I'm like, those do look good to me. You know what?
Yeah, you know what?
Quality ligaments.
Dang, look at the ligaments on that one. Holy smokes.
He must not work out.
He must not run.
Exactly.
Hey, we got a non-runner. Come look at these ligaments.
Not putting any stress on those knees.
Yeah. Those knees have been horizontal for a long time.
I don't know about running. I mean, why? My theory about running, I think I've said this before, is I just want to be good enough to evade somebody or the police, really, for about 3 city blocks. You know, just sprinting.
Yeah. In most of the movies, once you get past 3 blocks, you're clear.
I mean, Tom Cruise does it all the time.
Yeah.
He's like 100 years old.
Yeah. It's a good plan.
Cryogenically frozen.
It's a good plan.
Scientology works, I suppose.
Yeah. Running's different, though. I feel like when people get into running, it's almost like a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
It's like a religious
There's
aspect.
a euphoria. Yeah.
True.
Runner's high.
Paul, he saw Jesus on the road to Damascus. He's probably running.
He was walking.
He was walking, but then he ran.
I don't know that.
Once he felt the spirit, he started running. But yeah, it's I feel like there's a lot of, you know, people have, you know, they kind of equate it to, you know, kind of a spirituality. It's I don't know.
That's true. A lot of
There's a superiority complex though that come with runners that I don't care for.
What do you mean?
You know, they're like, yeah, I did 10
miles this morning.
Yeah, I did 10 miles this morning. I'm just preparing for the marathon. It's like, I know what you're saying. You know, I know what you're doing. It's like name dropping or telling me what school and accolades you got.
You should just show them your ligaments.
Yeah, I'm like, you want to see something here?
Yeah,
pull my pants.
Show you some ligaments.
Pull my pants right now. I'm gonna pull my pants down right now.
Funny.
Gosh dang it!
Jesus, we were talking about.
We were going to, but I don't know.
Can we segue?
I don't think we can,
Easter.
I don't think we
just started talking about Easter when you walked in.
That's funny that you bring that up because I was thinking we should talk about Easter, and we didn't.
Did you not get the 15 texts I sent this morning and the discussion
We've
that we had
this discussion
yesterday?
on a previous episode.
Good news.
Adam doesn't look at his phone.
Actually,
He doesn't.
somebody.
And I called you
Why'd you call me?
because you wouldn't answer your
Call me.
text.
Just text.
No, you want people to come find you.
Yeah.
You want Sean to come knock on your door and sit in your living room to tell you to look at this video.
I have Chris on the calendar to be on the radio show today.
And
Yeah, I see it on my calendar too.
there
the
should
next
be a text.
15 after that.
I don't have 15 after that.
No, the one with me and Sean. There's a group text.
When there's more people
Probably have it
involved,
silenced.
So
There's
it
a
was literally
grouping.
right before you texted me, Chris.
there's a grouping of people that makes me look at it less. I'm like, okay, they got it. Like,
Really?
Out of all these people, a couple of them.
So a
got
group text is less on our tiers of importance.
Yeah. I'm going to share a dirty little secret about that. Anybody that includes me on a routine group text, like whether it's in activities, football practice, anything like that, where there's more than say 5-6 people, I automatically delete and block the group. I can't stand constantly getting texts.
That is.
And if it's important enough,
You can silence it so it doesn't alert you, and then you can go back. Because it might be important information.
No, but I can't take looking at my phone and seeing that there's a text there. And I don't want to do that. I want to see clear, no messages, and the only message that gets through is something that is directed towards me and is action item type stuff.
Interesting.
So don't tell my wife that. She doesn't listen to the show anyway. So I block even our family text. And she actually did find that one time it was blocked on my phone. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, it goes off all the time.
If there's something important, she'll tell you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I had mine down to 1 yesterday. Now I'm at 49.
That's pretty good, though.
It's way better than before.
Yeah, before yours was like a big pill-shaped red number.
I know. Since
You're down to almost a circle.
I was casting onto a screen to show somebody. Well, not somebody. It was a group of people at family dinner. And I didn't have to, but I was casting something on there, and they saw my home screen like that, like you.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just like, it was a mass.
It's jarring.
Gasp. And
it's jarring to see somebody with that
almost
many unread text.
Yeah.
I don't know, whipped me or something.
Well, they're like, there's probably 3 or 4 of their own texts in there just sitting, rotting in your phone.
Yeah, where's
and
that?
So then at that moment, they said, you can just clear those all out. You're not going to get to them anyway. I'm like, I would, but I don't know how. And so they walked me through. So I cleared it maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's good for you.
Thank you.
It's really nice.
I since that day, I was like, I can't wait to talk to Chris about this. I really was. That's back in my mind.
You know what? I've made some life changes too based on this
For
podcast.
Lent?
No, but we talked about writing, how no one writes anymore. You don't write letters or whatever. So I wrote postcards to my kids this week just so I could send them a handwritten anything.
Yeah.
And it felt good. So I may keep it going. We went and hiked the Grand Canyon.
Oh, very cool.
So I picked up some just in a shop and thought these ones are actually from a resort we were at in Palm Springs. That's right. So these ones were from Palm Springs. And I just, let them know that I was sitting by the pool thinking about them. And I mean, they're at work, but now they're going to get a postcard from their dad from a luxury resort sitting by the pool. But they know he's thinking about them. But it was fun to write, to write their names and write. Yeah.
In your handwriting?
In my handwriting. And
Very
so
cool.
I was like, that does feel good. So I'll see if I'll keep it going. But that originated right here in this room.
That's what we do.
I'd actually been thinking about that too. And I haven't actually written a letter since then, but I have thought about it. So that's a start.
That's a start.
It's a thought that counts.
Well, you have ligaments in your brain too, and you don't want to stretch those out.
Right. Preservation.
Yeah.
Self-preservation.
Trying to do. Live forever.
Yeah.
What did you do for the Grand Canyon? So that's a big deal. Did you go to North Rim?
South Rim, Kaibab Trail. So we went down at what's called the Chimney. So my wife and I are not avid hikers. We've spent, like Sean, a lot of time just horizontal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But we have to be upright to walk down the canyon. It was very cold.
No burros involved.
We weren't
ride a mule, can't you?
We got out of the way of the mules. I don't know. I wouldn't ride the mules, man. I mean, that's scary.
Really?
I was watching those mules missteps and
really?
I was like,
but they never actually go down.
Yeah, they do. Oh, they never fall.
Right.
Yeah. Which is mind blowing because they're tied together. So if one mule goes down,
yeah,
like
the whole group's going down.
Oh,
that'd be fun.
If one mule decides, this life isn't for me, and takes a plummet, they're all going. And some of these trails, these switchbacks and stuff are only 3-4 feet wide. And so we had to get out in front of the mules and find a spot at a turn where we could get off the trail so they could get by. And I'm watching their hooves and they're missing rocks and steps. And this one's stumbling.
You're probably half blind.
Probably. I mean, they're tied so they could do it with their eyes closed, but they have one group of mules that goes down to the bottom. Where down at the bottom, there's another group of mules. So they're always one day rested. They send one group down and another group up to supply the lodge and then take all the trash and everything from the lodge back up. We went about halfway down. No, not even halfway down. We went like a third of the way down to Cedar Ridge, had lunch, and then hiked back up. But it's a different hike than usual because normally when you think hiking, you start at the bottom and you hike up. And then you hike down. But at the Grand Canyon, you start at the top. And so you hike down, which is enjoyable. You can just, walking down isn't as hard as walking up. But then so you go down 1,100 feet, then you got to go back up 1,100 feet. So my wife and I were a little worried, are we going to be able to do this? And we did it. So when we got to the top, we just felt great. We had a guide. This was a package that I bid on at the Children's Museum.
Oh, very cool.
Fundraiser.
Very
and so it was a package. So it was a guided hike. And then after the hike, it included a massage. So that was nice.
Nice.
Yeah, but the Grand Canyon's beautiful. The whole time you're looking at it, it just doesn't look real.
It's awe.
You've seen it so much that it looks fake. It looks painted. But really cool. We saw lizard trails in the rocks that are 300-something thousand years old, when that was mud. And then it became rock.
Oh, fossilized?
Yeah. Yeah, footsteps. You can actually see where the lizards put their feet and kind of pushed up some mud on their heels and just tracked across this rock. That's a rock now, but then it was mud.
How big are you talking? Like little footsteps?
About the size of a quarter.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Got pictures I can show you.
Interesting.
But, neat things like that are fascinating. Then the different layers of the rock as you go down, we went down 5 layers. I guess there's 7. And so you see where it changes from granite to iron, and that's when the rock gets red, because that's the iron bleeding through and essentially rusting out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get down to there's a green layer, and that's where that's all copper that's coming out.
Oxidizing.
Yeah, super cool. Saw elk for the first time. We had to wait for him to cross the street. I've never seen an elk in the wild in my life.
Really?
Yeah, and saw 50.
How is that possible? Haven't you driven to Flagstaff?
No, I'm a lowland man. We haven't done a lot of mountain stuff. So, but yeah, we were driving up to the park and we had to stop because elk were crossing the road, and they're big.
On the North Rim, there's buffalo.
I have seen buffalo out in the wild.
In Yellowstone?
Mm-hmm.
You're more excited about an elk than buffalo?
I am excited about an elk. I'm reading a book right now called The Only Good Indians. It's a great book. I'm about halfway through. And it's modern day. So they're modern day, kind of 30-something tribe members, so Indians that live on the reservation.
Mm-hmm.
But some have left. And so it kind of goes into all that. But they hunt elk, and it kind of goes into even today, those traditions of what these tribe members do to get ready to go hunt, and where they can hunt, and when they can hunt, and what they can hunt. But anyway, fantastic book.
Do you know off the top of your head the tribe?
I want to say it's Blackfeet.
So
I
north?
think they're a Blackfoot tribe. Yeah, so they're like
North Dakota?
Michigan, Grand Rapids, that kind of area. Yeah, is mentioned in the book. They do the the sweat lodge whole experience, and that's kind of one of their members dies, and so they go to do that to remember him. And
speaking of Indians, my brother-in-law went over to Alcatraz in San Francisco, and he was showing us some pictures of his journey over there this last weekend. And when he was showing us pictures, there's one picture of the entrance, and it says something about "Welcome Indians," all painted all over it or whatever. I guess the Hopi Indians were put on Alcatraz for a time because they wouldn't conform or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, it was. Really? I don't know the whole story. I wasn't really listening, but interesting.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. But it's cool to read the traditions that those people maintain. So their culture's completely changed, right, from when they were hunting out on the plains or out in the wild, and then how they live now, is just fascinating. And I get the opportunity in my work to work a lot with the tribes, the 2 tribes here, the Kokopah and the Quechan. And
you design some stuff for them?
Yeah. So
anything we would know?
The new Kokopah convenience store.
Out off of
on 95 when 95. You go up the hill.
Yeah. I went there
and then under construction right now is their new convention center. So that's going to be a really exciting project. It's just starting to come out of the ground.
For Kokopah or Quechan?
For the Kokopah. Yeah, and then for the Quechan, we've helped them with when we remodeled the Paradise Casino.
Yeah.
We helped them with that. And then we've helped them with other projects kind of around the reservation. But you go to their tribal council and there's a respect that you can feel in that room that they have for their traditions.
Oh yeah.
And it always makes me think, what traditions do we have respect for like they do? So they've preserved things throughout, thousands of years of history.
Yeah.
And
I'm guessing when they ask you to do
like
something, and you acknowledge it. You don't say "got it, chief" or anything like that.
No. Yeah, I don't say that.
Okay. That probably would come off wrong.
Yeah. Well, again, you want to be
like boss.
Yeah, like boss. Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever addressed anybody.
What's up, boss?
Boss.
Or chief.
About Haas.
Chief. Never.
You call people chief.
I've never called anyone chief.
Really?
No, never have.
Haas? No, Haas.
Haas.
No, I don't call chief.
Like from
or
Bonanza.
I don't know. I don't know where it comes from or what it means.
Haas.
Okay.
The big guy.
Haas.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. So we had started talking about Easter, so there's a tradition. But what traditions do we have, and what? Well,
I had a thought as you're talking about Kokopah and Kachan. So the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has announced that they're going to build a temple in Yuma in the next few years. I wonder if they're going to use design elements from the tribes.
I hope they'll at least use, the design elements from the tribe are really interwoven with kind of desert living.
Yeah.
Because they pioneered living in the desert.
Like water.
Yeah. And the Kokopah's tribal emblem is, them farming, using the rivers and using the canals and those kinds of things. And the way they built, in fact, you can go down to the Kokopah, they have a museum, and you can see one of their, original mud houses. It's fascinating stuff, the way people lived in the desert. And so when you're designing, you try to do something that pulls those elements through. So it doesn't look like a spaceship landed and dropped this building in this alien town. You want it to be basically informed by the history of how people built in the desert. So I hope they'll do that. I know they did that in
I didn't think about Gilbert right now when you're talking about that.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll incorporate, kind of lowland Sonoran desert vernacular in the architecture.
Yeah. They use their own architects, I think, now, right?
Yeah, the church has their own group of architects, that do all that. So, and then they've got specific builders that are familiar with building temples.
They don't consult with local architects?
They have in the past on other things. Really? I know when the Stake Center was built, that was all Yuma architects and contractors. Sometimes they will, just to have somebody local that can help them navigate local
regulations,
permitting process, regulations. We have relationships with the city and this building inspectors and things. So, in fact, we end up on a lot of projects as kind of the Yuma liaison, to kind of help, this, because every city does it different. And so you help yourself by having somebody there that you can call and, and give you that link to that.
It looks like you're sporting some Indian jewelry as we speak.
I am. I just got this one in Sedona this weekend. And I've always, it's going to sound silly and cliche, but I do have some Native American blood through my dad's side. My grandmother was half Cherokee.
Wow, that's not just some.
No, yeah. So Granny, we called her. She lived here for a while.
You're 16th.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We're an 8th. I'm an 8th, right?
Oh, okay.
So my dad's a quarter.
Dad's a quarter. Oh, yeah, you're an 8th. Yeah.
So I'd be an 8th. So yeah, Cherokee, but it was through her mother who was full. No, so my grandma was half. Did I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So her father was a white guy and the mother was a Cherokee tribe member.
Full blood.
And their relationship was not it was outside of marriage. So it's not recognized on the rolls or anything. So
on what rolls?
The rolls of the tribe.
The Cherokee.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So their union wasn't ever
even though you can trace the genealogy?
Yeah. It's a tribal, they want you married. If you have children out of wedlock, those children are not considered
part of the tribe.
Well, the tribe, I guess.
But I mean, there's got to be lots of children that are born, full-blooded on both sides. Mm-hmm. So they're not tribal members.
I think but I think you have to actually go through some process to get
adopted into the tribe.
Basically into the
council,
into the tribe. But I'm an 8th Cherokee, and then I'm an 8th East Indian as well. So my mom's grandmother was East Indian, so from India. Yeah, there's fun stories of my grandmother growing up in India, living. So her father was English.
I would not look at you and be
right?
like, Cherokee.
No, I am the American mutt.
Dubai.
Yeah. Yeah. East Indian, Native American, Scottish.
Yeah, Scottish. I'm like, there's got to be some Scottish in there.
Scottish, Dutch. There's even some Mongolian back there, which makes sense because Genghis Khan, Genghis, what didn't we just change his name? Genghis Khan.
Really? Change it.
Yeah. So the Mongolians proliferated throughout the entire world.
Why do we change it?
Almost everyone has a little bit.
No, yeah, I understand that there's somewhere like 5 million or something descendants of Genghis Khan.
Yeah. His story is fascinating. That's probably another
podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I think he was credited for killing 5 million people.
He killed over 10% of the world's population at the time.
Okay. So we'll call that 5 million, because I heard on a podcast that just given his descendants today, that 5 million people living today are directly descendants from Genghis Khan. So he's essentially atoned for that by repopulating the earth to the extent that he exterminated.
Well, the reason his rule was so strong was when he would take over a city, he needed the men to go fight. So he would turn the rule of the city over to women. And so he would put his Mongolian women in charge, and then command that the men of the town needed to be with a Mongolian woman. And so it was that way he could basically convert them through time to all his descendants and all his.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's a fascinating and terrible person.
Have you done a
Complex.
DNA test?
Yeah. Yep. And that's how we found the Mongolian.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you do, 23andMe?
23andMe. Is it that what it is? Yeah,
That's
one of those.
them. I did another one through Ancestry.
Yeah. No, one of those. And so there's Scottish, there's Irish, there's Dutch. My mom's half Indian mother married a Dutchman. So there's Dutch back through there. And it's just, descendant, from Robert the Bruce in Scotland, is in our family tree. And so that, Ancestry is really cool. I love going on there and just seeing how far back it goes. And it's incredible.
It's made estate planning pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we'll have people, I probably once a month I'll have somebody come in that's learned about a son or a daughter that they didn't know about, that's contacted them.
Wow.
I was talking DNA results.
Yeah, 23andMe.
Yeah, I had a consult just like that 3 days ago.
Did you? It becomes very interesting because it's like, what do you do?
Because it'll alert you, hey, you've got a relative.
Yeah. And you haven't
close relative.
You haven't known about this person. You've got your estate plan in order. And, under the law, if you don't have them disinherited or have a clause in there disinheriting descendants, then they are entitled to an equal share of your other descendants.
Really?
Yeah. It's presumed that you forgot about them, which in this case, yes, they did, or didn't know about them in the first place. But so your will or trust or whatever is going to be subject to attack unless you make it airtight and say, any descendants that I have that I'm not naming, I specifically disinherit.
Wow.
Which sounds harsh. And a lot of times clients read that sentence and they're like, I don't know if I like that. I'm like, well, have you done your DNA test? Because there might be somebody else out there.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy with those. But the reason I bought this ring is the artist is named Jesse Thompson. He's a Navajo. And the Thompson was, like, oh, okay, well, now I have to have it.
Yeah.
And he's about late 80s. They don't expect him to live much longer. But he still creates his rings the old way, which is through volcanic ash molds. And so when you look at the ring, it's kind of rough and pitted and marked up because they do the cast out of ash and then pour the silver and then break the ash away so it's not smooth and clean. But yeah, anyway, I love anything when I'm out, looking for things like that. I always try to find something with an interesting story, and I don't know. but it also looks good.
Is turquoise expensive?
It is. Yeah. It can be expensive depending on where it's from and what kind it is. There's so many different types of turquoise. It's crazy. This is Kingman turquoise, which is blue and brown.
You have turquoise on your other hand too.
I do. I have turquoise on my other hand. I look like Conor McGregor or something. And this has 2 different kinds too, but Arizona blue and then the red is...
The red is turquoise?
No, the red is... give me a second. The red is... I think this one is actually oyster shell.
Okay.
So a young oyster shell's red, which I had learned. I didn't know that.
I feel like turquoise, because I've grown up in the Southwest, it's just kind of like...
Yeah, we see it and we don't think about it.
It's rare to me.
Like
I see it all the time.
Yeah, you know, yeah. We don't think of it as like a fine stone.
Or valuable.
Yeah, no, but it actually really is. And some of it's gone now. Some of it you can't get anymore because it's been mined out. Certain types of turquoise, and so then the value of those goes way up because it just not making new turquoise. So, but yeah, fun stuff like that. So, and I try to buy it from as close to the source as I can. So these were Navajo tribe members that were selling these things, and chat with them and talk to them. And one of them has family in Yuma, we learned, and so kind of those kinds of things. It's fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
Indian in you?
No.
You know for a fact?
Boring old white guy. Yeah, I'm like 50%
Swedish?
English. No, mainly Welsh, English, Scottish, Irish.
No Danish.
I don't think so. None of the Netherlands. No.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought your last name was from there.
No, Garner's an English name.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. And it was actually Gardner. We found out that 9 generations ago they just left out the D, and I was kind of bummed when I found that out. I really liked Garner. I didn't like Gardner, and I think maybe because everybody mispronounced my name or would misspell it when I'd say it.
Yeah.
And it was always, I'd say Sean Garner. And I'm like, okay, SCAN and then GARDNER. I'm like, no, that's both wrong. And so anyway, I've really emphasized the Garner, leave out the D. And it just became some resentment, with Gardner. And now I learn I am a gardener. The records on some ship.
Somebody way back decided,
yeah,
I'm changing this.
Yeah, so that was kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
My mom's maiden name is Vanderwerf.
Everybody has to bear their cross.
Yeah.
So
those are, and I still have family today, most in Tucson and other places that still have the Vanderwerf name.
Huh?
And then my dad's obviously
Vanderwerf. I might re-implement that name. That's
Vanderwerf. It's Dutch for of the wharf. So they were originally probably shipbuilders, and so that was how they took their name.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got journals and things from my grandparents when they came over and went through Ellis Island. My mom's the first one of her family that was born in the U.S. All her brothers and her sister were born in Holland.
Uh-huh.
And so I've got that, and then I've got my dad's parents' side, which were here in the U.S. longer, obviously Native American and then Scottish. So my grandfather on my dad's side was, that's where the red hair comes from. He was the redhead.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a dominant gene, right? Red.
It's recessive.
You have to have 2 redheads to make
there has to be multiple redheads, and it's recessive. And then to have red hair and green eyes is even more. It's only, I think, 5% of the world that is redhead.
Huh.
But there's some convention. There's something in Scotland.
Do you have a high tolerance to pain?
Supposedly, yeah. I think I do.
Really?
It's a real thing.
It is
it's a real thing. And then who was I talking to? But doctors and things like redheads are different. So you have to,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to,
like numbing agents,
things like that.
They got to give you like horse doses to,
yeah, things like that. So yeah,
I always tell people
we were built for battle.
I have a high tolerance. I just choose not to tolerate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just give me the good meds. Give me the good stuff.
That's how you get good ligaments.
Yeah. Exactly. I choose not to tolerate pain.
Yeah.
That's something I just won't tolerate.
Good deal.
Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Gardeners, dude.
Yeah, the Garners. But they're James Garner, Maverick. You know, you got some famous.
Jennifer Garner.
Oh, Val Kilmer died.
Yeah, yesterday. That's a tough one. Always felt linked to that guy somehow.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is really distraught. It's like
Really?
had the biggest crush on Val Kilmer.
Oh, he's great.
From The Saint. This was her movie
Oh,
choice.
Although you can't really go back and watch his movies, they didn't really age well.
Why? Which ones?
Just as he didn't age well, I should say.
Top Gun.
Top Gun.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, he was a good villain.
I meant Maverick, the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not very impressive. His acting skills in that one.
Well,
He's dying of throat
He's
cancer.
dying of throat cancer. Yeah, cut
you
the
know
guy
that?
a little slack.
Still, I mean, you gotta like step
For
up.
me, it started. My man crush on Val Kilmer started with Real Genius.
Uh,
You remember that movie? Anybody
Yeah.
see that?
mm-hmm.
There was one that he was in Africa and there was lions. There was shadows and the
Yes.
That was
It's
interesting.
called
Ghost in the Dark.
Ghost in the Darkness.
It was
Yes.
not a huge hit, I would say.
No, it was a
was-
little slow for the time.
I didn't like-
Watch it now. It's
Is it good?
It's
suspenseful?
good. Yeah,
It'll
it's real
still
good.
leave you like, I think I spent probably a week's worth of my life, like, is now zapped from me when you watch that movie. It's like, I know it was only 2 hours or 2.5, whatever it was, but I do feel a week older.
It cost you a week.
Yeah, it's so long that it's like, all the concentration that I have for the next 5 days is gone.
Yeah.
Never watched it.
Well, I heard an interview about that movie, and they tried to make it as accurate as possible to.
What happened?
Yeah, just to
a true
everything.
story?
You know, how to hunt. You know, and all of that. But
Was it a lion that was hunting them?
Yeah.
and
Yeah, dragging them out of their tents. They were trying to build this bridge.
came out at night and came and got him.
Oh, wow.
He's a
This is
manhunter.
real, like a real story.
Well, I don't know if it's a real story, but they tried to be as accurate as they could to kind of African.
Serengeti.
Yeah, just
Life.
all of that, like true to how you hunt a lion and what lions can actually do and
Mm.
all of that. But
I don't
Top
know.
Secret, you can't forget about Top Secret. Did you see Top
That one
Secret?
I don't know.
What? Really?
Top Secret. I
have to
just
watch it now.
I just
I know a
saw
little
an
German.
ad for that.
In fact, he's right over there. It's like one of those Naked Gun type movies.
With Val
Oh,
Kilmer?
really?
Kilmer was in it. Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious.
Top
Yeah.
Secret. Okay.
Yeah, it's like it might have been a Mel Brooks movie, like
Okay.
Blazing Saddles.
Okay.
In fact, yeah, maybe we'll have to check that.
You talking 90s?
No, this
80s.
was 80s.
Okay,
This was
so
80s. Yeah, it's early Val Kilmer.
okay,
Yeah,
I'll have to go back and watch
he's
it
the
now.
spy in it.
okay.
Yeah, and it's hilarious. Yeah, now, it was hilarious when I was 9,
6,
10, but it's probably still hilarious. But it's in the vein of like Blazing Saddles and Naked Gun,
Uh-huh.
those movies.
Okay.
Kind of real
Yeah,
over the
National
top.
Lampoon's
Yeah.
kind of slapstick.
Yep. But yeah, Val Kilmer's, he's a symbol of my
Freedom.
childhood. So when you see these people start dying, it's
It is sad, yeah.
coming
Yeah.
for me too at some point.
Well, words of wisdom to leave us with for the next month.
Well, we talked about Easter coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about Easter coming up and we've touched on a little bit of tradition, but I'd love to see, people focus on gathering around the table and family and, interacting with people, unplug. That's something I need to work on that so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a real hard time disconnecting from work and
Yeah.
even if I'm not doing work, what my projects are and re-engaging with the family. So
Well,
yeah,
Easter's
I'll take
perfect for that. New beginnings,
Mhm.
fresh start. So gather the family around, eat something good.
You plan on attending a church service
Yeah, of course.
on Sunday morning?
Yeah. Yeah, do that. And then our church has a general conference this weekend, which kind of always leads
coincides.
kind of coincides with it. But yeah, absolutely. There's a big musical event and things at our church. And so, yeah, there's plenty to help you kind of get in the Easter spirit. Easter always kind of takes a back seat to Christmas, but
Mhm.
Easter's really the event that really signifies, the purpose of Christ and his, what he did for us.
Yeah.
Much more so than Christmas. And so, I know our church has tried to make a push to, put some emphasis on Easter.
Yeah.
And what it
more
means.
like a Christmas,
it's
right?
it's such a, it's the culmination of everything about Christ's ministry and life, and the gospel is all that week of Easter, Holy Week.
We, as a family, started trying to do that. And so one of the ways we tried to do that was we looked at different traditions from other faiths, specifically Catholicism. So when Lent started, Ash Wednesday, we started our own Lent as a family. Everybody picked something, that they could give up for 40 days. And it's funny because my littlest girl will get on my wife, who I think, what was hers? Like stop yelling or something as much.
Oh.
And within yells so much.
About 3 days.
Giving it up.
She's going to appreciate you
3 days
out there.
Well, she doesn't listen.
Okay.
So, 3 days in, she failed. And so my little one, it's very sweet. She said, Mom, Lent.
Nice.
She's like, I'm sorry. Yes, I need to do better. I'll start again.
Excellent.
You know what? The best corrections come from your kids.
Oh, yeah. Well, they don't pull any punches.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a time that my wife and I were arguing one morning, and we were just not going to see eye to eye on that issue. I don't even remember what it was, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm
wanted
leaving.
to go running. You didn't want to stay in bed.
Probably something to that effect. And I went to walk out the door and go. I was in school at the time, so I was going to go to college. And opened the door, and my little 2-year-old daughter goes, Dad, we haven't said prayers. I was like, stopped midway out the door. I was like, anybody else could have said anything else, and I would have slammed that door. But I was like, that caught me in my tracks. I was like, okay. Turned around, kneeled down, said prayers, and changed the mood quite quickly.
Well, and that's why I want to try to, keep these traditions going. My wife's great about decorating the house, for Easter, our table's set and all for the whole month, leading up, to it. And so you're constantly reminded, and there's bunnies everywhere. And then of course we have,
I don't get the bunny thing. I'd like to know where the bunny thing came in.
The bunny, I don't know. I think it's just a symbolism of kind of
spring.
Yeah.
You're just making that up. You're just pulling that out of your hat.
That's not.
No, I'll bet I'm pretty close. But you're right. I just made it up. But it makes sense.
But do you want to know something interesting about Easter and when it's celebrated? Because it's one of those holidays that it's on a different day, right? Mm-hmm. There's not a date as far as a calendar date, and there's not a specific day like the first Sunday of the month or whatever it is, like Mother's Day. It is the first Sunday after the spring equinox, after the full moon. So the spring equinox is the 20th of March. So then after that, the first full moon, then the Sunday after that. That is Easter. And if you go back to the Jewish calendar, then that is actually the first day of the new year.
Right. I have heard that.
And that makes sense because spring is the new year, and it's bringing in the newness of the year. And so it goes all the way back to Passover when the Israelites, were freed from bondage from the Egyptians, and they were commanded that on the 10th day of the new year to bring in a lamb and have it live with them for 4 days, and on the 4th day to kill it and to have a feast of lamb and put its blood on the door posts and mantle, and the spirit, the angel of death, would pass over. That's where Passover comes from, all of the houses of the believers, and that blood was symbolic of Jesus Christ, who is the Lamb of God. And so the Passover coincides perfectly with Easter and the newness of life. Christ was celebrating the Passover when he had the Last Supper. He had entered into Jerusalem, and on the day that Passover was to begin, and he entered into the temple on the day that the Lamb was to be introduced into the house of the Israelites. So he's the Lamb of God entering into his Father's house. He was questioned by the Pharisees, who were the ruling class at the Sanhedrin of the time, and the lamb was to be inspected by the Israelites in their house to be free of blemish, to make sure that it was pure and it was of the right quality to be sacrificed, and they, the Sanhedrin, questioned Christ. And then when ultimately he was taken and in the middle of the night and brought before the Sanhedrin, Caiaphas, who is the chief priest, he was the one in charge of approving all sacrifices in the temple, and he's the one that condemned Christ for the sacrifice, who was then ultimately crucified, and his blood was spilled on the crossbeam of the cross. And all that symbolism cannot be overseen. And it's amazing to put it all together when you see that. It really brings the Judeo and Christian faiths together in worshiping God's grand plan for us all, and that the blood of Christ, or the blood of this unblemished Lamb, is the cleansing and redeeming aspect for all of our lives.
Yeah, to that, you and I were just talking, I think it was yesterday, 2 days ago, we were talking about when Christ was convicted and sentenced in front of Pilate, they had a choice, the people in the crowd, right? It was Christ and then Barabbas. And when the word or the name Barabbas is Bar, son of, and then Abba, God. And so you had this guy named Son of God versus the actual Son of God, right? And they picked this one, who was a political uprising insurrectionist.
Yes.
And so the condemnation for that would have been crucifixion. And it's just very interesting that the Jews were looking for a political uprising to overthrow the Roman government, and they were looking to a Christ like that. And this Barabbas that they selected to be freed instead of Jesus Christ was one of those. He was a political uprisist that, was leading the charge against the Roman Empire, but yet he was left free, and the actual Son of God was crucified in his place. There's so many ironies.
Yes, there. Absolutely. And the fact that, the Jews convicted Christ in the Sanhedrin for blasphemy. So that was his sin against the Sanhedrin. And in the law of Moses, that was punishable by death. But they did not have the authority to punish by death because they were under Roman rule. And so what they claimed to Pilate, who was a governor at the time for the Romans, was that he was an insurrectionist. And so, the real insurrectionist went free, and instead Christ took his place. But yes, he was totally free of any sin, and Pilate admitted it. He was taken to King Herod. He couldn't find any guilt for him, but the Jews wanted him to be convicted. Now, I'm not trying to open new wounds as far as let's look at the Jews as people that killed the Savior and continue to, I guess, hold a grudge in the simplest terms, because the sins of the fathers shouldn't be paid by the sons. But that's what happened, was this people in general wanted something specific. They looked past what God was giving them, which was so much greater, so much more freedom, so much more peace, but they wanted political freedom. And because they couldn't see the greater thing that God was offering, they gave that up to be sacrificed. And do we still do that today? Do we still look right past the greater thing that God is offering and choose the worldly things about Easter, to celebrate and, have Easter egg hunts and stuff like that? And I'm not saying Easter egg hunts are bad, but to overshadow that with the true meaning of it would be, I think, tantamount to overseeing what Christ was truly trying to offer the people at the time.
No, it's powerful to think how everything lined up for that to happen. Had Pilate freed Jesus, he couldn't. That had to happen.
Right.
And so you think about how we're put in situations where I can't imagine how agonizing that would have been to know that this guy's innocent, but these people want him dead. And my job in this area of the Roman Empire is to keep the peace.
Right.
So this guy's got to go to keep the peace. But then by doing that, he's actually facilitating the plan
The greatest
of God.
The greatest miracle.
And so for all of that to line up, the days, to literally be the lamb is powerful.
Right.
And so I think those Easter traditions are great for teaching our young ones that don't really see that, but they see that this time is special, that this time is different, that this time is for, family and spring and which ultimately when Christ resurrected, that was a celebration and a great thing. Right.
Well, and
leading up to it was terrible, but
right.
It was to accomplish this greater good. And so those traditions allow us to accomplish that in our homes, to build love and understanding and get together and to have that in our homes is special. And Easter and Christmas and these things give us that opportunity to
reflect,
do it.
Yeah. I think one of the great photographs that we have in a painting is the empty tomb. Mm-hmm. And that is what I look to as a sense of inspiration to do the best I can and to adopt Christ into my life. Is the tomb is empty. He resurrected. And because of that, I can resurrect. But more than that, I can have healing for my sins. And that's something big and powerful, and it's more powerful to me. That symbolism of looking at the empty tomb is what touches me and reminds me what has occurred in order for me to have life and to get back on the straight and narrow if I've strayed.
For me, I love that empty tomb symbolism because every one of us right here have lost somebody. Your dad, my mom, your wife. Mm-hmm. And the idea that it's not the end is incredibly hope-giving to me. I can't wait to talk to my mom again and laugh with her and talk with her and just have these experiences. And I miss it, And so it'll be fun again to talk with, or even my grandma, who's cantankerous and hilarious and mean, but in a good way.
Yeah.
But it will be good to be able to chat with her again and just laugh and make fun of people.
Well, that's the message of hope. We talked about, Paul running, when he heard, that the tomb was empty,
Well, you're talking about Peter.
Peter, running when he heard that the tomb was empty and, that the hope, he'd heard that. He heard that was going to happen. So you could say, he knew that was going to happen. But then when it actually does, just that, the feeling of that, when you look forward to something, mm-hmm. so, even mundane, in our lives, you look forward to an upcoming vacation, you look forward to something. And then when it's here, you're so excited. And then when it happens, and so something so universally important, could argue the most important event in
human history,
human or non-human, whatever you want to say, history happens, I hope we'll run to see this,
mm-hmm.
To be a part of it, to touch it and be there. And all of that is powerful stuff. And life's hard, man. Life's full of disappointments and letdowns. And, so if we have hope for a better, then you can get through it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what Easter is all about. It's all that agony and everything leading up to, he knew what was going to happen. I can't imagine knowing that that's going to happen to you and still doing it. For it.
Yeah. One interesting fact that I learned in just reviewing Easter and the events of Passover and how they crisscross over is during the Last Supper, it was traditional to have bitter herbs, mm-hmm. to remind them of the bitterness of slavery and that they were freed from when they were freed from bondage in Egypt. But during the Last Supper, they did not have bitter herbs. In fact, Christ specifically
left those out
because he would take the bitterness
mm-hmm.
of all of that night upon himself in paying for our sins.
Yeah. So Easter's great. So that would be my wish for everyone, is that you gather around a table, gather your family around, and think of the Savior and what his sacrifice has provided for us, and the bitterness can be gone,
Yeah.
As far as the Easter Bunny is concerned, it has nothing to do with Jesus Christ.
Oh,
but
surprise.
Yeah. So ChatGPT says the Easter Bunny is actually not directly related to Christ's resurrection, but rather comes from older non-Christian traditions that became blended with the Christian celebration of Easter over time.
Yeah.
Easter for Christians celebrates Jesus Christ's resurrection from the dead, the core of Christian faith. The Easter Bunny, however, comes from pagan springtime festivals, especially those honoring fertility and new life. Rabbits or hares have long been symbols of fertility because they reproduce rapidly. In medieval Europe, some pagan customs and symbols like the hare and eggs were gradually merged into Easter celebrations as Christianity spread. So that's where the Easter Bunny comes from.
And that's the same with most of our holidays. They don't
Christmas,
actually coincide exactly with the event that we're celebrating. They're a mixture of other religions and traditions. And I think that's okay as long as we are, the day and the time isn't as important as the spirit of the holiday.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if the Easter Bunny, seeing those bunnies reminds you of Easter, which then reminds you of what, if you're Christian, the resurrection, then yeah, I'm all for it. In fact, bringing this full circle back to Genghis Khan, is that was one of the reasons he was so successful as a ruler, is he allowed the people in the places that he conquered, he allowed them to practice their religion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would not expect that.
No, he did. He was completely, he didn't require that you have his religion. And so what ends up happening is you kind of take the religions and you kind of mash them together. And that's what's happened for us and for the Jews and everything, is that those religions kind of get commingled.
Yeah.
But that's one of the reasons Genghis Khan was so successful, was he allowed freedoms. He said, all you got to do is declare me your ruler, but you can continue to worship who you want.
He's a man of the people.
Want. Yeah.
Good for him.
He's a man of many people.
Yeah.
So.
Well, nice pun.
Yeah.
You got to wrap it up.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Yeah.
And go to church somewhere. Find somewhere to go to church and remember why we're celebrating Easter is what I would say.
Or spend time with your family. If you're not if you're not of that faith and you want to spend time with your family. Remember what's important. Freedom from bondage.
Yep.
That's what the Passover was. So if you're Jewish, there you go. You can recognize that. Otherwise, even if you're non-Jewish, the fact that God is good. Look around the universe. God is good.
Gather around the table.
There's time to spend and reflect with your family.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, Chris, for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
We'll talk next month.
If you have questions or want to know more about something that was discussed today, please call the law firm of Deason, Garner & Hansen at 928-783-4575 or visit yumaestateplanning.com.